Hey, family. This is Che Willis coming back with another episode of Wealth is a Journey podcast. Guys, this is episode 114, 114 weeks of consistency, 114 weeks of getting it done. As always, we outside moving and shaking. Wealth is a Journey is growing. The community is growing. Me being able to help people client wise is growing as well, and just getting different opportunities to speak and impact lives. So I'm super excited about that. So thank you so much for taking this journey with me. If you are a first time listener, watcher, or subscriber, thank you so much for joining us on this podcast. We talk about faith, family, and finances, among other things. If you are a return listener, watcher, or subscriber, thank you so much for joining us again. Hopefully, we are adding value to your lives on the way to the M's, because as always, we are on the way to the M's. So, speaking of the M's, man, I thought it was very important to talk about three ways that are wealth killers. Three ways that we are playing this game of life and on this wealth building journey, and three different ways that we are killing ourselves on this wealth building journey. And I believe it's important to talk about because we're all on this journey of whether we're trying to live comfortably or we're trying to build wealth, be rich, whatever the case may be. And I believe that on this journey, you need to know exactly what the rules of the game are. We're all playing a game. Whichever destination you're trying to get to in the game, everybody's destination is going to be different, right? My destination is going to be different than yours, so forth and so on. But I believe in order to get to wherever destination we're trying to get to, we need to know the rules to the game. And these three things that we're going to go over today are wealth building killers if they're not done, right? And so I believe that it's going to be very important to talk about. Now, before we get started, I am going to say that, uh, okay, before we get started, I'm going to say that uh, people believe that in order to be wealthy, in order to be rich, whatever the case may be, you just need to make a lot of money, right? And the common person would think that, right? But it's not that simple. No, you don't just need to make a lot of money, because the reality of the situation is that you can make $1 million, but if you spend $1 million or $1 million, $1,005,000, you are broke. And that's the reality of the situation. I don't care what your clothes look like, if you drive a nice car, if you have a closet full of Louis Vuitton or Hermes or whatever designer that you like, you're broke. And the thing about it is that what we're trying to do is we're trying to get to the other side of being broke or living paycheck to paycheck, right? And that's what this podcast is about, is trying to teach you practical little principles that's going to help you to at least live a comfortable life. Or if you want to live a wealthy life, we're going to get you there as well. And building wealth is not just about making a lot of money. Uh, to me, the best offense regarding wealth building is defense. And so what that means is what we make the money, that's the offensive part, right? But how are we keeping the money, or how are we making that money make us more money, right? And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about three wealth building killers that a lot of people don't think about. And the first one, number one, is having a budget, and not just having the budget, but those little um those little small little purchases that are killing your wealth. And I believe if you do one, it'll help you stop doing the other. So the first one is building a budget, right? So when people say, if you don't know, I do budget classes. I do one-on-one budget sessions with people, and I help people living paycheck to paycheck live the life that they want to live through financial planning and wealth management, right? Which basically, in layman's terms, is I help you set up your budget and tell your money where to go. Because a lot of people were never taught, excuse me, how to set up a budget. And when I talk about setting up a budget, and you may say, "Oh, I set up a budget," a lot of people think that, and they don't. They don't really set up a budget. So, what a budget is not is paying your bills, and then whatever money's left over, you blow it, just spend it, right? So that's not a budget. A budget to me is you having the ability to not just pay your bills, but also being able to reduce your expenses so you'll have more money to do the things that you actually enjoy. Or if you want to build wealth by investing and things of that nature, you can do that. So, setting up the budget to me is having your income, having your expenses, and I'm talking about all of your expenses. I'm talking about down to the gas that you put in your car, being very detailed about where your money is going and doing it before the month starts. So let's just say you're setting up your June budget and it's May and you're setting up your budget for June. My wife and I, we normally set it up before the month starts because it gives us control. What I mean by that is if you already have a plan set and the things that are coming at you, which are your expenses and just life that happens, so we're talking about budgets, it'll give you that flexibility and give you the options to be able to pivot just in case something happens during that month. So if you have, so you okay, again, we lay everything out. So gas for your car, your mortgage, your rent, um, clothes that you're buying, your kids, if your kids have a field trip, any debts that you have, different things of that nature. If you're putting away money for an emergency fund, things of that nature. So everything has to be itemized and lined up. So if something happens and you have like spending money for yourself, right? And you have that line item already taken care of, but then something happens that you didn't expect, you can then go back to your budget and say, okay, well, since we didn't expect this thing to come up, let's go to this line item that we don't necessarily need, like spending money for yourself. So let's just say you have $500 for the month for spending money for yourself already itemized. But then let's just say your tire blows and you don't have an emergency fund and you need to spend $200 for this tire. It'll allow you to go to that line item for your spending money for yourself, take the $200 that you need, and then pay for the tire. And then you'll still have $300 left over in the line item for spending money for yourself, if that makes sense. If you do need a tutorial on how to set up a budget, this is not an advertisement, but if you do need help setting up a budget, on my website there is a free Excel file on how to set up a budget, and then also, I'm sorry, there's a free Excel version of a budget spreadsheet on there that you can use for free. It doesn't cost you anything, and then there's also a free tutorial on my website as well. So if you do need help with setting up a budget, please seek the help that you need. Now, what this is going to do, if you're setting up a budget, if you're telling your money where to go every month, it's going to allow you to reduce your expenses because your expenses are going to be a line item and they're going to be lined up one by one by one. And then as you pay them down, and it gives you goals and targets, if you knock those targets down on a monthly basis, by default, you will have more money to make that money make you more money. And then also, if you have line items for spending money for yourself, like we had talked about earlier, then those little trips to Wawa or those little trips to wherever you like to eat and things of that nature can come from those line items. So what that means is once you spend the money in those different line items, you log it. So therefore, those little trips to the store that you're spending all the time is not eating away at your wealth because it's already planned for, if that makes sense. So if you set up the budget, it's going to help you not to fall victim to those little small little charges to the store, pack of gum, different things of that nature that we all spend money on that we don't itemize or we don't put into our budget. So again, the first one is setting up a budget, sticking to the budget, and then having those small little charges eat away at your wealth. If you do the first thing, which is set up the budget, then it'll help you and you maintain it. It's going to help you not to have those little charges eat away at your wealth, right? So that's one. Number two is talking to your kids about money and then also telling them no. This part is so difficult for a lot of parents because a lot of us we didn't know about money, right, growing up. And a lot of the beautiful part about say your parents is that if well my parents anyway, I'll talk about my parents. If we couldn't afford something, my mom dad would tell me no. And although it didn't feel good at the time, now that I'm grown and I have my own kid, I appreciate it more. But what a lot of us do now is we'll try to make something happen a lot of times to our detriment. And because we're not talking about money to our kids, then it's giving our and we give them the things as well. So we don't have the money and then we give them the thing that we really can't afford. It's giving our children a false sense of my parents have it when you really don't. And that's okay if you don't right now. That's fine. But the thing about it is, we can't keep burying ourselves deeper and deeper in a hole by telling our kids, yes, you can have the thing when we really don't have it. And I understand why we're doing it because we understood and we didn't like our parents telling us no. So if we have a credit card with, say, $5,000 on it, we have a false sense of hope that we have money when it's if we're being honest, it's going to be a struggle to pay that credit card back because we just don't have it. So us telling our kids no and talking to them about money is going to do two things. It's going to make them more aware of money. So a lot of us we struggle financially because we were just never taught and our parents didn't talk to us about money and how money works. Excuse me. So if we're doing that at an early age and they'll have an understanding of how money works and if we can't afford it, then we shouldn't buy it, things of that nature. And then also if we're telling if we're telling them no, then they understand, hey, we don't have it. But also what I want to do is I want to go back to number one. What we should be doing is when we're setting up our budget, our kids should be sitting there with us if they're age appropriate. The reason being is because if we're going through our budget every month with our spouses, or if we're doing it by ourselves, whatever the case may be, then and our kids are sitting there with us, then they'll have the opportunity to understand income and our expenses. And if they understand that at an early age, when they get out there on their own, they're going to understand how money works. And also, what we don't think about is if our kids ask us for certain things, if we don't have it at the time, and then we tell them no, or A, we're not going to feel bad for telling them no. And then B, the kids are already going to understand that why we're telling them no because we just don't have it because they sat down with us when we were doing our budget. So they understand that we have goals, we have aspirations that we're trying to pay things down so we'll have more money to make that money make us more money if that makes sense. So it all goes together. And I want to talk about a real quick story about what happened to us a couple weeks ago. We went to American Dream up in North Jersey. Had a great time. And then we went up with my brother and my sister-in-law. We went up there and we had a great time with the kids. And then my sister-in-law was like, "Hey, well, I think we're gonna go to New York after the thing. After we're done here, we're gonna go up to New York." Like we stayed there for a couple days. We went to the parks, the water park and the amusement park. Had a great time. But we had a certain amount budgeted for to take this trip. Now, New York was not in the equation. So for us, if we ended up going to New York, I wanted to go to a nice restaurant, enjoy myself, walk around. My wife would probably want to go buy something, whatever the case may be. And as soon as we heard that they were going to New York, I'm like, that sounds like a great idea. But then I'm thinking to myself, that's not really a budgeted item. And my wife and I were not doing bad financially, but at the same time, it just didn't really make sense for us to go. But we were trying to force the issue to go, trying to move some money around to see if we can do it. And I originally said no at first, and then I talked to my son, and then I went back and talked to my wife again, and I'm like, okay, well, I think we can try to make this happen. But then the more we talked about the expense of going there, it just really didn't make sense. And my wife was like, yeah, I definitely would love to go, but we have a whole bunch of other things coming up that we need to take care of. So maybe we shouldn't do this. And I agree with her 100%. So um, this is not just for people who don't have the money. Like we could get it from somewhere else, but it didn't make sense for us to try to force the issue to make it happen. So I'm saying all that to say that if you can't currently afford to do something extra or whatever the case may be, it's okay. The beauty of it is having the discipline to understand that it doesn't make financial sense for you to do the thing and then just not do it. And the more you do that, you're going to build that muscle to be disciplined because you have somewhere to go. You have other things going on. And I believe that that's one of the strongest ways for you to build wealth is to have discipline and build the discipline to say no to certain things that it doesn't make financial sense for you to do right now. So that's number two. Number two is being able to tell your kids no. And I believe that if we can do that as parents, even though we understand how it felt for our parents to tell us no, if we can do that as parents, then I believe that that will help us continue to build wealth as opposed to trying to make things happen and figure things out to our detriment. What's going on, family? This is Che Wills from Wealth is a Journey. Did you know that we're fighting a common enemy every day? Yes, this enemy is called poverty. Many of us do not tell our money where to go every month, and it causes stress, anxiety, and uncertainty about how we're going to defeat this enemy. Here's the good news: you do not have to fight this enemy alone. If you are serious about taking your finances to the next level and reducing that anxiety and stress, go to Wealth is a Journey. We have free resources, we have one on one coaching, and we have a community of people that are fighting this enemy together. So if you are serious, go to my website, wealthisajourney.com, and we can fight this enemy together. Let's go. Number three. Number three is not making an emergency fund or building an emergency fund and actually naming emergencies and not just taking money from, if you do have an emergency fund, taking money from an emergency fund to do frivolous things. So I believe that on your wealth building journey, that you have to have an emergency fund. It is very important to you have an emergency fund. The reason being is because life happens, right? There's a term that we all have adopted is life and whatever the case may be. And the thing is, things come up all the time. Different things come up and you're not expecting them. So it's important for you to have an emergency fund. And if you do not have an emergency fund currently, then I would encourage you to get one. And the way that you get one is go back to number one is building your budget. And the way we again we put the emergency fund in our budget is we make a line item for it. So if we the rule of thumb is to the first one is to have a starter and emergency fund, which is 1,500 to $1,000 if you can have that, right? If you can have that, then after you're done paying down your all of your consumer debts, then you want to have a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. That's just the way we do things. You do what you want, but at the very least, you have to have an emergency fund. Um, and it's put aside for emergencies. Emergencies. If you have an electrical issue at your home that you did not budget for the month, you can pull from the emergency fund and then pay for the thing and then make sure that you put the money back the following month when you're going through your budget again. Your hot water heater goes out, or you you have a I don't know a busted pipe or something like that that you need, that's an actual emergency, not I need to go to this concert, or I need to go out to dinner with my spouse or my girlfriends or my boy, my boys, or whatever the case may be. That is not an emergency. That is not an emergency. Okay. So we need to verify that we need an emergency fund, and then we also need to make sure that we understand what an actual emergency is. And if it's not an emergency, then we cannot spend that money. And let me also say this: if you have an emergency fund, it is not there to make you rich. Some people will say, okay, well, I have, let's just say $10,000 as my emergency fund, and it's just sitting in the bank. It's just sitting there. And then you'll think to yourself, oh, I just want to put this money into the stock market, or I just want to make this money some type of investment. All right. It's not there for that. It's not there to make you rich. It's there for emergencies. Okay, so I just need to make sure we are crystal clear with that. So if you want to put it into a high yield savings account, that's completely fine, but do not put that money into the stock market. Do not put that money into an investment, because as soon as you do, maybe a month or two later, you're going to have an emergency, and then you're going to be panicking. You're going to scramble and like, where am I going to get this money from? You're going to then swipe a credit card because your money is now tied up into this investment that you put the money in, and it's going to be a disaster. Okay. So make sure if you do have an emergency fund, is not in a high yield savings. It is in a high yield savings account, so it can at least make some type of interest, whatever the case may be. That's fine, but do not put that money into an actual investment. It is not there for that. If you have an emergency fund, at the hope is that your consumer debts are paid down. So if that's the case, then that means you're going to have an extra money, and that extra money can then go to investments. Okay. Emergency funds for emergencies, investment money is for investments. So I just need to make sure that we understand that. And I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but you don't know how many phone calls, you don't know how many messages that I get talking about your emergency fund and what people should do with that. It's for emergencies. So if you can do these three things, then I believe it's going to help you on your wealth building journey and not put you at a deficit. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to get 1% better every day. And if you're doing your budget, if you're telling your kids no, if you're building and maintaining your emergency fund, then I believe that you will be well on your way to building wealth. And so, if we can adopt these three things, then you guys are going to be in really, really good shape. And it does take some discipline. Uh, it does take some accountability. Like my wife, like I was thinking about how can we make this thing happen with this New York trip, but thank God for my wife, because then she was like, "Well, yeah, I don't think it's a good idea based on all the things that we have coming up during the summer. It just didn't make financial sense." So when she said that, it confirmed what I was already feeling, but at the same time, I needed her. to help me to gain clarity. So if you are on your wealth building journey, or you're trying to just be comfortable, or you're just trying to, pay some things down so you'll have some extra money, then it's good to have an accountability partner. Super, it's you don't understand how important it is to have that accountability partner, because those people are there as guardrails so you don't get off track. So if you're on your journey, make sure you talk to people about it. If you want to join our wealth building community, there's a community of people who are marching in the same direction, trying to get our finances in order and trying to get us to these M's that we're talking about. And we can't do it alone. So that's the episode. I just wanted to make sure that we talked about those things, because, and these are good reminders. We talked about these before on the podcast, but at the same time, I believe it's very important to continue to talk about, because it's repetitive, and those we need those repetitions in order to understand that we need to continue to go. We need to continue to go. Every week, every month, we all need this. We all need the accountability. We all need the repetition. So that's the episode, y'all. So hopefully, all these three things made sense. Again, I'm going to go over them again. One is not setting up a budget is a wealth building killer. Not talking to kids about money and saying no. And then the third thing is not building and maintaining an emergency fund. Those things we need to do. So that's the episode. Thank you guys for tuning in. Wealth is a journey. We will see you next week. Peace.